Now, the views and opinions expressed.
Coming to you from Cambridge Community Television. This evening's program is going to be a series of questions and answers provided by myself in dialogue and in a roll-in with Bernie Sanders. The first question that we will be asking is, the establishment of a government is based on the legitimacy of the contract between the government and the people. The question that I am asking here this evening is whether or not the contract that was established with the government through the people in the Constitution is still being observed in the manner which was established. In other words, the question of by the people, of the people, and for the people. Whether or not that contract is still being carried out in the governmental system and economic system that we have in the United States today. The question is legitimate simply because the migration of the economic form from the 1787 until today has been enormous. And in addition to that, the question is, because no economic form was mentioned in the Constitution, what would establish what economic form is acceptable, having none been established and having the principle of the people, by the people, and for the people established, one would recognize perhaps easily that the people establish what economic and governmental form in this democracy are acceptable. The question then is legitimate to ask whether or not capitalism or a form of socialism is possible under this contractual agreement between the people of the United States and the government. The question is legitimate for a number of reasons. We would like to explore those reasons this evening. Firstly, apparently through the development of economic manipulation, an oligarchy has been established of very wealthy individuals who control the entire economic process of the United States. This will be documented by Bernie Sanders, Senator Bernie Sanders, in his discussion a little later in the program. The question, however, is that if no decision was made in the Constitution as to the economic form, and the people have the right to establish then what form of economy is desired, then the challenging of the present oligarchy in late capitalism is completely legitimate by the majority of the people. Certainly a minority controlling the entire economy is not in the interest of the people, not in the interest of the majority. The question that the Congress uses is the congressional officials are elected by the public and then execute the will as they understand it for the public. But we have to recognize that untruths and distortions and outright lies, not to mention the negligence of not mentioning anything to the people about the structure. And later in the program that will become clear, but let's look just at one aspect. The security aspect, the fact that the United States security initiates programs which are in direct violation of the Constitution and denies that they exist. When evidence is then presented by Snowden, for instance, they act then surprised and then quickly say that they will investigate and change this. President Obama has done this now on 2 different occasions, but there is no indication that a system has been put in place to prevent the wholesale recording in violation of the search and seizure in the Constitution, in violation of the government not having the right to investigate, to search and acquire information, so the interpretation of search and seizure regarding one's written and spoken communication in emails or in conversation on telephones. So apparently the question of the legitimacy of government is distorted by the fact that the government doesn't share all of the information that the public would have necessarily at its disposal in order to make a decision as to the legitimacy of that government. In addition to this, the economic question was seriously distorted in the Bush government, in that the subprime mortgage meltdown and speculation was done in a coercive method against those interested in acquiring property, in acquiring a house, in acquiring the opportunity to own property. The manipulation of the documents, manipulation of the interest rates and the contractual agreement was such that many individuals who acquired the property were later challenged that the documents weren't signed correctly, or the information that was presented when the contract was signed didn't meet the standards. So the question of the subprime mortgage and the question of speculation is of primary interest in that part of the meltdown. In addition to this, Alan Greenspan and the entire elites of the universities and pundits mentioned throughout the early and mid 2000s, 2004, 5, 6, and 7, that the fluctuation, boom and bust cycles of capitalism had been eliminated, and that for all the rest of foreseeable future, there would only be an increase in the value of property, and the economy would then continue to increase. This proved not to be the case at all. And the problem with that, of course, is that individuals then accepting this information believed that the price that they were paying for their homes was legitimate, and that whatever price was paid would be a bargain under the conditions of a continually rising economy. So we see in these cases that untruth, partial information, lack of information, distortion of realities, and distortion of the conditions under which the contract was set are continually changing. This is a serious problem, of course, in this process. So let's get now to the next part of our program, which is that of the Bernie Sanders interpretation of what is actually happening. So there's a technical difficulty that we're experiencing here in the studio, and we're looking to find a solution to it.
Mr. President.
Senator from Vermont is recognized.
Mr. President, there is a war going on in this country, and I'm not referring to the war in Iraq or the war in Afghanistan. I'm talking about a war being waged by some of the wealthiest and most powerful people in this country against the working families of the United States of America, against the disappearing and shrinking middle class of our country. The reality is that many of the nation's billionaires are on the warpath. They want more, more, more. Their greed has no end, and apparently there is very little concern for our country or for the people of this country if it gets in the way of the accumulation of more and more wealth and more power. Mr. President, in the year 2007, the top 1% of all income earners in the United States made 23.5% of all income. Top 1% earned 23.5% of all income, more than the entire bottom 50%. That's apparently not enough. The percentage of income going to the top 1% nearly tripled since the 1970s. In the mid-1970s, the top 1% earned about 8% of all income. In the 1980s, that figure jumped to 14%. In the late 1990s, that 1% earned about 19%. And today, as the middle class collapses, top 1% earns 23.5% of all income, more than the bottom 50%. Today, if you can believe it, the top 1/10 of 1% earns about 12 cents of every dollar earned in America. So we talk about a lot of things on the floor of the Senate, but somehow we forget to talk about the reality of who is winning in this economy and who is losing. And it is very clear to anyone who spends 2 minutes studying the issue that the people on top are doing extraordinarily well at the same time as the middle class is collapsing and poverty is increasing. Mr. President, if you can believe this, you know, many people out there are angry. They're wondering what's happening to their own income, to their lives, to the lives of their kids. Since between 1980 and 2005, 80% of all new income created in this country went to the top 1%. 80% of all new income. And that's why people are wondering and asking, what's going on in my life? How come I'm working longer hours for lower wages? How come I'm worrying about whether my kids will have as good a standard of living as I've had? From 1980 to 2005, 80% of all income went to the top 1%. Today, the Wall Street executives, the crooks on Wall Street, whose actions resulted in the severe recession that we are in right now, the people whose actions, illegal actions, reckless actions, have resulted in millions of Americans losing their jobs, their homes, their savings. Guess what? After we bailed them out, the CEOs today are now earning more money than they did before the bailout. Mr. President, while the middle class in this country collapses and the rich become much richer, the United States now has by far the most unequal distribution of income and wealth of any major country on earth. When we were in school, we used to read the textbooks which talked about the banana republics in Latin America. We used to read the books about countries in which a handful of people owned and controlled most of the wealth of those countries. Well, guess what? That's exactly what is happening in the United States today. Mr. President, the wealthiest people in this country, not all of them, by the way, not all of them. There are many wealthy people in this country who understand and are proud to be Americans, who understand that one of the things that's important is that all of us do well. But there are, on the other hand, many others whose apparently only concern is more and more wealth and more power for themselves. And this is an issue, this greed is an issue that we have got to deal with. Now, in the midst of all of this, growing income and wealth inequality in this country, we are now faced with the issue of what we do with the Bush tax cuts of 2001 and 2003. And if you can believe it, we have people here, many of my Republican colleagues, who tell us, oh, I am so concerned about our record-breaking deficit. I am terribly concerned about a $13.7 trillion national debt, terribly concerned about the debt that we're going to be leaving to our kids and our grandchildren. But wait a minute, it's very important that we give over a 10-year period $700 billion in tax breaks to the top 2%. Oh yeah, we're concerned about the debt, we're concerned about the deficit, but we are more concerned that millionaires, people who earn at least $1 million a year or more, get on average $100,000 a year in tax breaks. So you got a $13.7 trillion national debt growing. You've got growing income inequality, top 1% earning more income than the bottom 50%. But the highest priority of many of my Republican colleagues is to make sure that millionaires and billionaires get more tax breaks. I think that that is absurd. But it is not only income tax rates that we're dealing with. It is the estate tax as well. And let's be clear, while some of my friends want to eliminate completely the estate tax, which has been in existence in this country since 1916, let us be clear that every nickel of benefit, all of those benefits, will go to the top 0.3%. And if we did, as some of my friends would like, eliminate the estate tax completely, it would cost us $1 trillion in revenue over a 10-year period, all of the benefits going to the top 0.3%. So I am sure that in a little while my friends are going to come down to the floor and say, we're very concerned about the deficit, we're very concerned about the national debt, but you know what we're more concerned about? Giving huge tax breaks to the wealthiest people in this country. But, Mr. President, the tax issue is just one part of what some of our wealthy friends want to see happen in this country. The reality is that many of these folks want to bring the United States back to where we were in the 1920s. And they want to do their best to eliminate all traces of social legislation which working families fought tooth and nail to develop to bring a modicum of stability and security to their lives. There are people out there, not all, but there are some who want to privatize or completely eliminate Social Security. They want to privatize or cut back substantially on Medicare. Yeah, if you're 75 years of age and you have no money, good luck to you getting your health insurance at an affordable cost from a private insurance company. I am just sure there are all kinds of private insurance companies out there just delighted to take care of low-income seniors who are struggling with cancer or another disease. Mr. President, furthermore, there are corporate leaders out there and many members of Congress who not only want to continue, they want to expand our disastrous trade policies. My wife and I went shopping the other day, started our Christmas shopping. And we looked, and virtually every product that was out there in the store, consumer products, was China, China, and China. We seem to be a country in which we have a 51st state named China, which is producing virtually all of the products that we as Americans consume. Our trade policy has resulted in the loss of millions of good-paying jobs as large corporations and CEOs have said, why do I want to reinvest in America when I can go to countries where people are paid 50 cents, 75 cents an hour? That's what I'm going to do. To heck with the working people of this country. So not only are we saddled with this disastrous trade policy, there are people who actually want to expand it. Now, one of the things that we're going to see going on is that while we struggle with a record-breaking deficit and a large national debt caused by the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, caused by tax breaks for the wealthy, caused by an unpaid-for Medicare Part D prescription drug program, caused by the Wall Street bailout, driving up the deficit, driving up the national debt. Then some people can say, oh, my goodness, we got all of those expenses, and then we got to give tax breaks to millionaires and billionaires, but we want to balance the budget. Gee, how are we going to do that? Well, obviously, we know how they're going to do that. We're going to cut back on health care. We're going to cut back on education. We're going to cut back on child care. We're going to cut back on Pell programs. We just don't have enough money for working families and their needs. We're going to cut back on food stamps. We're surely not going to expand unemployment compensation. We got a higher priority, Mr. President. We have got to give tax breaks to billionaires. I mean, that's what this whole place is about, isn't it? They fund the campaigns. They get what's due them.
Exactly. Bernie Sanders has put his finger on the exact problem. It is the fact that the Citizens United decision has provided further opportunity and legitimacy in that the wealthiest people in this country fund the political campaigns, and through funding them, they have a direct say-so in the decisions made in government, because those individuals are certainly going to follow the information that is provided by those who fund the very campaign that brought them into political office. The crisis continues, and the legitimacy of this system is put in question by Sanders. Bernie Sanders has provided insight not only into how the government oligarchy works, information which has been available for some time through the examinations of Piketty in his book about capitalism in the 21st century, but putting all of the information together as Sanders has done with his terrific insight, with more than 30 years of experience in Congress and in the Senate of the United States. His insights and his ability to diagnose and dissect the problem is not only truthful and intriguing, but his presentation is authentic. We will be examining further discussions and speeches by Bernie Sanders in reference to the question of the legitimacy of the capitalist system in the United States, because the fact that the jobs are provided by a capitalist, the question is, does it entitle him then to refuse to provide jobs, refuse to produce, refuse to provide the most basic opportunity of the labor force to earn a living and to earn a decent living, as Bernie Sanders has said? That is the question that we're looking at. And if the majority determines that the capitalist system is not working for the majority, is it then legitimate? And the question is quite honestly placed. Is it legitimate then to say that the capitalist system, because it is not meeting the needs of the people, not meeting the needs of the majority, and it is the majority who has the say-so as to the economic structure in this nation, the Constitution being silent on this part? These are the points that Sanders legitimately brings forward and that are valuable, particularly at a time in which the domination economically, politically, and socially by a small number of elites. Sanders has put this in less than 1%, a small number of elites who have complete control of the economic system. We will pursue this in the future, and we encourage our viewers at home, of course, to watch these videos on YouTube.